Welcome to the 1204. I have a terrible cold, so I would like to apologize for any sniffing, sneezing, or coughing that may occur in this video. It's fair to say that it would be almost impossible for anybody to have any sympathy for Ian Huntley. It would be almost impossible to find anybody that will shed a tear for Ian Huntley. Ian Huntley became one of the most hated men in the United Kingdom after he murdered two innocent 10-year-old girls. Ian Huntley is a child killer, a woman beater, and a paedophile. Those three things are extremely taboo in the United Kingdom. So it's no surprise that this is one of the most hated men in the United Kingdom. Ian Huntley was brutally murdered in a HMP prison. And there will be a lot of people. In fact, it will be very hard to find somebody who wouldn't celebrate the fact that this guy was murdered. A lot of people are going to celebrate the fact that Ian Huntley was brutally murdered in a UK prison. They're going to see that as justice. Now, let me just make this clear. I am not opposed to somebody losing their life as a punishment in the right circumstances. If the death penalty was still a thing here in the United Kingdom, if Ian Huntley was sentenced to death, I would have no problem with that. If Ian Huntley was swinging from the gallows after his day in court, I would have no problem with that. And obviously, not many people would. Listen, I don't even mind a bit of jungle justice, aka vigilante justice. There is a right place and a time for vigilante justice. Let me give you an example. Let's say Ian Huntley was released because he has spent over 20 years in prison. Let's say he was released for his heinous crimes. And if somebody on the streets walked up to Ian Huntley and they stuck him like a pig, I wouldn't have a problem with that. And in my opinion, there would be no bigger picture to look at. However, Ian Huntley was not killed on the streets by a vigilante. Ian Huntley was not sentenced to death by a judge. Ian Huntley was killed in a prison, in a UK prison. And therefore, we must look at the bigger picture here. And to be honest with you, it's not a pretty picture. Because the same people who are celebrating Ian Huntley being brutally murdered in prison, these are the same people who will complain about the prison system. They will complain that the prison system is not harsh enough. Let me tell you guys something. The prison system in the United Kingdom, the HMP prison, is an absolute shit show at the moment. It's an absolute joke. Those people are meant to be there for punishment. Them people are meant to be there because they are out of control. But actually, they are the ones in control of the prisons. Those prison staff don't run anything. You have a system where criminal scumbags are in charge of that place. You've got people walking around with phones, smartphones. And let me tell you guys something. I don't care what you do to your bumhole. You can put all the Vaseline you want up your bumhole. You are not getting no damn Samsung up your ass. Did you know that the prison staff are bringing phones in to people? They are bringing chargers. So those days of charging up your battery or your phone with the aerial wire, you don't have to do that anymore. Because a prison guard will bring you a charger with a brand new Samsung phone or an iPhone or whatever. And I know you guys, some of you guys may think that I'm going off here, off the topic, but I want you guys to bear with me because I am getting there. You've got people vlogging in prison. Look at their cells. It resembles a corner shop. You got tins of tuna. You've got drinks and noodles. You've got all these things fully stacked. You got some of these people eating KFC. And I know you people are going to say, well, never allowed those things in prison. Listen, in my opinion, you should not be allowed to have a can of tuna there. You better decan that shit and put it in a plastic. But again, they can still use plastic as weapons. You got people there with kettles. Despite numerous incidents of people being sugared in prison, they're still allowed kettles. What I'm trying to say is this, and not to mention as well, a couple of weeks ago, you had a prisoner escape from prison twice in 1 week. And you guys would complain about that. You guys would say it's a joke. These people are meant to be banged up. So how is it that you guys are complaining about the little things that's happening in prisons, like a prison guard sucking off a prisoner? You guys complain about people getting KFC in prison. You complain about people getting iPhones in prison. But yet you guys want to celebrate cold-blooded murder in prison? Let me tell you something. That man wasn't killed. because the staff there, because the prison staff are parents, and they thought, you know what, fuck him, he deserves it. We'll just turn a blind eye to this. That's not what happened, I'm afraid. And if that did happen, I would be more accepting of that. But more than likely, what happened was you're dealing with prison staff who are absolutely terrified of the prisoners. And therefore, the prisoners can do whatever they want in that gaff, even commit murder. It says a lot about somebody who is willing to kill somebody in prison. Because prison is not the roads, it's not the streets where you could kill a man and you have a chance of actually getting away with it. Small or big chance, you have a chance. In prison, if you kill someone in prison, there's no way you can hide that shit. So you've got people in there who are willing to kill somebody in prison and potentially face more time added onto their sentence. And all that does, it just highlights the prison system is an absolute joke. One prisoner described the prison system as butlins with gates. Butlins with bars, sorry. That was his exact words. Butlins with bars. They could do what they want in there. Those people are not deprived of anything. I mean, you got prison guards sneaking in McDonald's and KFC to prisoners. I mean, what are they going to do next? Are they going to bring in brasses to the prison? My thing is this. Whether you like it or not, he was sentenced to life in prison, and those officers should have done their jobs and protected him. However, they did not protect him because he's Ian Huntley and he's a beast of a man, and they thought, fuck it, he deserves it. Because I might not have a bigger problem with that if that was the case. But I want you guys to understand, he wasn't protected because he was scared. He wasn't protected because the prison guards were more than likely scared to intervene. Have you seen the prison guards that work in prison these days in the United Kingdom? I remember I went to visit someone in HMP. Was it Nine Wells? 5 Wells, 9 Wells. Sorry, 5 Wells it's called. 5 Wells. I went up 5 Wells to go see someone. And it was a new prison. At that time, the prison was just new. It was just newly opened. And honestly speaking, that prison looked immaculate. One of the best looking prisons I've seen. In fact, was the best looking prison I've seen. And I remember in the visiting room, looking at the staff. The staff members there all had a social worker vibe about them. They looked like youth workers. You could see their approach was different. And I thought to myself, okay, this is different. Because I remember when I went to HMP Chelmsford to visit someone back in 07 and 08. The prison guards there, these were some big meathead white men slapheads with tattoos who looked mean as fuck. And I know looks can be deceiving. But when I was at HMP 5 Wells, on a visit by the way, I just thought to myself, hang on a second. These people just don't resemble what you would think a prison guard should resemble. They looked more like social workers. And unfortunately, that's what you're seeing these days in these prisons. And I hate to say it, there's a lot of women working in these places, a lot of young women. And a lot of them are very, very naive. A lot of people who sign up to work in a prison, their mentality is different. They will tell you that, listen, I'm working here because I want to make a difference. I want to help these people rehabilitate back into society. Let me tell you something right now. If I'm in charge of a prison, if I'm in charge of employing people to work in a prison, if I have a prison, let's just say hypothetically speaking, I own a prison and I have two people. I have somebody that says, listen, I want to do my bit for society and I want to help contain these people. And then if I have somebody else who says, well, I want to work here because I want to help these people, I want to help them rehabilitate, I believe everyone has a second chance. Listen, I'm going to go with the first because the latter sounds like some hippie nonsense. And the latter is what the problem is in these prisons. Too many of these staff, they have this fantasy in their head that they can rehabilitate these criminal scumbags. And when they go into that place, when they sense the absolute hostility and menace in that place, they then become scared. And they start to cut corners. Then they develop this mentality of, do you know what? Let's pick our battles. And then they start to let things slide. They will see a prisoner with a mobile phone. And rather than them challenging that prisoner, they will turn a blind eye to that. You will have people who've been there a lot longer who will tell them, look, listen, we can have an easy shift. So what if they want to smoke a bit of weed? We can have an easy shift. So what if you see somebody vlogging on the wing, taking pictures of himself, doing pull-ups and press-ups? I mean, getting his mate to take a picture of him whilst he's doing press-ups and sit-ups and push-ups. Pull-ups, should I say. Like we'll just let him have that phone because, if that's what it takes for these people to behave, then we're going to let them have it. And then you create a situation in there where these people are in there for being out of control and now they are given control. They can do what they want in there, including murder people. And what makes me laugh is I remember what happened to another paedophile. This was Ian Watkins, Ian Huntley's namesake, first namesake. I mean, there's something about that name, Ian. Ian Watkins. This was a notorious paedophile. He was brutally murdered in prison. And people celebrated it. They spoke about putting money on the guy's books who killed Ian Watkins. And I was just like, do you know what those guys were in prison for? Because a lot of people romanticize vigilante justice. They romanticize jungle justice in prisons. What? So do you guys think that the person who look, you guys are so dopey. Don't you know the people who actually act out the vigilante / jungle justice in prison? Don't you know that these guys, they are not no Robin Hood characters? Robin Hood, that's fictional. What? So do you guys think that somebody who has gone to prison for fraud or gone to prison for shoplifting, you think that's going to be the type of person that's going to act out the jungle justice and the vigilante justice? No. The people that act these things out are very, very violent individuals, despicable individuals, the type of individuals that you guys are saying we should lock up and throw away the key. So I don't see anything here to celebrate, actually. Because all that's going to happen is this. Those staff members who were on shift, after that happened, they are going to be more scared than they already are. And it's only a matter of time. See, because a lot of you guys don't care about what happens in prisons. Because you feel like, well, that situation there is contained. And by the way, it can't happen. We're never going to meet these people in prison because they're in there for a long time, or if not forever. And just leave it to the guards to deal with. Like I said, the people that sign up for this job anymore, it's no longer the big, hard ex-army man. A lot of these people are frightened females. And the men who work in that place as well are not exactly hard men. So you're dealing with frightened people. And after something like that happening, where this person was brutally murdered, it's only going to make them more scared. And the more scared the staff are, is the more control the prisoners are going to have. The more frightened the staff is, the less control the staff have, and the more control the prisoners have. See, look here, I'm actually old school. I don't believe in this rehabilitation nonsense or any of that second chance bullshit. However, I think prisons has lost the true meaning of what it was once for. Back in the day, prison was about COD, control, order, and discipline. And right now, what you have is a bunch of young, naive females who think that by showing these bastards kindness, that these guys are never going to offend again and they're going to go out and they're going to rehabilitate back into society. It doesn't work like that. And these girls find out very quickly. Prison has a very, very high staff turnover. A lot of people are not ready for that type. A lot of people have never seen that type of menace before. The type of violence that goes on in that place. So it's no wonder why I'm not surprised at all. Because if they are not even tackling the smaller issues in that place, like people smoking weed and phones being smuggled in or whatnot, well, not smuggled in, how are they going to tackle the bigger issues like the violence and the murder? And honestly, I am not surprised at all that this man has lost his life in there. And this is going to be the first of many. This will be the first of many. Because the so-called prison guards in that place do not have a hold of the situation at all. They're in way over their heads, they're understaffed, and they're out of their debt. So before you guys start to get the champagne out and celebrate this man's demise, I want you guys to think what that means for prisons. because that should never have been allowed to go down. Because as soon as something like that happens, as soon as people start getting killed in that place, then all it does is just highlight who is really in charge. And it just goes to show you that actually the guard's not even in charge. I've seen videos of prison guards being recorded. And that prison guard is trying her best not to look at the camera. Because if she looks at the camera, then people would say that, why didn't you challenge him for having a phone? So she's trying her best to plead ignorant. And that was in HMP5 rules. They need to do something about the staffing there. But also, who would want to work in prisons? I don't know. I don't know, but I don't think this is anything to celebrate. Do you know what I mean? Ian Huntley being killed in there. It definitely isn't. And I'm just a little bit baffled that people would be outraged about people having phones, people escaping from prison. That rapper, I mean, can't even remember his name, but he escaped from prison twice in 1 week. And a lot of people, a lot of you taxpayers, you have something to say about that, right? How could that happen? How could that happen? That is a joke. That's incompetence. Well, yeah, this is incompetence, right? A prisoner murders another prisoner. And let me tell you something as well. Ian Huntley, that was a brutal attack. This man was not killed with one punch, for what I'm hearing. So uh, this attack was able to go on. This was obviously an attack that lasted, you know, a significant amount of time, and it wasn't, they didn't intervene on time or they didn't intervene at all because they were scared. So people could not expect, and this is what I'm trying to say about the public, especially these people that refer to themselves as patriots. These tax-paying patriots who care so much about where the tax money's going. They will celebrate a man being killed in prison, but then start whining about phones and prison guards sucking off prisoners and KFC being delivered to prisons and things like that. People flying in drones and drugs in prisons or whatever. If they could not get a hold of the smaller stuff, then they are certainly not going to get a hold of the bigger things like the violence. And it just highlights you guys' hypocrisy. So you guys are okay with the violence as long as it's against certain people, but then you're not okay with a bit of weed in there, a bit of drug dealing, a bit of hanky panky with a prisoner and a prison guard. Bottom line is, he was in a UK prison and he should have been protected because that's how you uphold the law. These people are in there for breaking the law. And in my opinion, they're being allowed to continue to break the law because some staff members want an easy shift, and that's not acceptable. If they are in there for breaking the law on the outside, then they should be forced to stick to the law in the prison. That's how it works. Because otherwise, it will be anarchy. If you can't behave on the outside, then you should be forced to behave on the inside. No matter who the person is, you want to act violence on. Because as soon as you guys start turning a blind eye to things like this, or you guys start praising things like this, then you guys are condoning the anarchy. And that will affect everybody, even if those bastards are contained. Look at 2 weeks ago, you had somebody escape from prison twice in a week. You thought these people would have learnt the first time? Now, it was all fun and games, right? But what happens if somebody escapes from prison and they walk into the community and they do something to somebody? Then are we going to wake up and smell the coffee? You got staff members bringing in contraband to prisoners, blowing off the prisoners. What happens if one of those dopey broads hands over her keys to one of these prisoners and then they escape? Oh, that would never happen? Listen, listen, those prisons are not run by hardened military um, persons. These prisons are run by people who could be your local youth worker. I'm not joking. Or lollipop lady. Those are the people that are meant to be in charge of the prison. And it's no surprise they are not. So no, I won't get the champagne out and celebrate this because all this does is just highlights that the prison guards are not in control of the prisons. Peace.